My House of Horrors Chapter 341 to 350. Her rosy and tender little hands pressed on the cold and shabby coffin lid. When Zhong Ling touched the red coffin, all the monsters that knelt in the village stopped crying, and the twisted faces slowly lifted up. Come help me. Zhong Ling screamed. The usual cuteness was gone from her face, and her expression was scary. Bang! The heavy coffin lid slammed on the ground, and everyone turned to look inside. Inside the red coffin was a woman. Her wet hair stuck to her fragile body. Her skin was pale, and her features were regular. There was an air of heroism between her brows. She was not beautiful, but she gave off a special feeling. Buy us some time. Zhong Ling walked into the red coffin and stared at the woman inside. The villagers all stood up, and they spoke in the local dialect. Their faces were filled with joy. How do you want me to buy time? Chen Ge turned to look at Zhong Ling, and his heart skipped a beat. Zhong Ling pulled back her hair. The back of her skull was missing a bone, and the scalp was caved in. This is the only abnormality on Zhong Ling's body. Walking forward, Zhong Ling smeared her blood on the woman's hand and then placed it on the back of her head. Blood vessels crawled out from the woman's palm and crawled into Zhong Ling's brain through the boneless hole. What is she doing? Did she reincarnate into Zhong Ling, or is she just possessing Zhong Ling's body? Quote. The ugly villagers saw the sleeping woman inside the coffin, and they charged at her like crazy. I hate children. Chen Ge took out the hammer from his backpack and stood before the red coffin. He felt like he was going to be torn apart soon. Seeing the monsters charging at him, Chen Ge panicked. Other than fighting with all his might, he could only call for Zhongya in his mind. The rampaging monster was about to tear Chen Ge and the coffin behind him apart when a light chuckle came from the blood fog. At the moment of life and death, the female ghost did not come out to help you. Looks like she has indeed fallen into hibernation. A red wave full of human faces dispersed the blood mist and knocked away Chen Ge and the deformed villagers who were surrounding him. A red specter from the Society of Strange Tales. Chen Ge's body felt like it was frozen after being brushed by it. He looked at his cold left hand. Earlier, the situation had been urgent, and he had only managed to use his hands to protect his head. In the end, his elbow had been touched by the red specter. I've been following behind you all this time, waiting for this moment. The monster full of human faces condensed again, and a black-robed man walked out from behind it. This person stopped beside the red coffin, but his eyes were fixed on Chen Ge. You didn't expect us to meet again so soon, did you? At the last sentence, the black-robed man changed his voice. He was imitating the voice of the investigator who had jumped off the building. So it's you. Chen Ge still had a trump card, and that was Yan Danian's ability. However, he did not dare to use it carelessly, because the other party had seen this ability before, and it was very likely that they had already made preparations for it. Killing two birds with one stone. Our original target was you. You are too dangerous to live in this city. The black-robed man took out a small bottle from his sleeve. It was filled with half a bottle of blood. He shook it lightly, and red and black blood vessels crawled out from the blood. Enjoy your freedom a little longer. In a while, it will be your turn. The red specter stopped the crazed villagers. The black-robed man did not waste time. He opened the cap and placed the bottle on Zhong Ling's head. These blood vessels were found behind the door. They are the most precious thing. They have many uses, and they hide the biggest secret of the red specter. The situation was completely under the black-robed man's control. His eyes stared at the blood vessels crawling out from the bottle, and he was highly focused. Once you're entangled by these blood vessels, even a red specter won't be able to escape. Chen Ge stared at the bottle in the black-robed man's hand. The blood vessels slid down the side of the bottle and touched Zhong Ling's hair. If the ritual between Zhong Ling and the female ghost is interrupted, it'll be even harder to leave. Chen Ge patted his backpack, turned around, and touched the white cat's head. This is the moment of life and death. Later, go and remove that bottle. Remember, the bottle in his hand. Chen Ge raised his finger to point at the black-robed man's palm. Chen Ge was not sure whether the white cat understood him or not. The blood vessels might affect the red specter's mind. Once the female ghost was controlled by the black-robed man, there would be no chance of a comeback that night. Therefore, Chen Ge had to give it his all. He had to use all the tools and ghosts he had to protect Zhongling and the woman in the coffin. There was not much time left for Chen Ge, and he was not one to hesitate. Just as the blood vessels were about to crawl into the back of the girl's head, he grabbed the hammer and charged at the black-robed man. You overestimate yourself. The black-robed man did not even move. His fingers were frozen. When Chen Ge was 2 to 3 meters away, the red specter with faces escaped from the surrounding villagers and blocked Chen Ge's way with a strange smile on his face. Yan Danian. The uncle in the comic seemed to know that if he did not help now, he would die as well. He picked up the pen and started to draw the red specter on the paper. With the last stroke, the red specter paused. Chen Ge did not stop. He swung the hammer at the black-robed man. This was a rare opportunity. I won't make the same mistake twice. The black-robed man's free hand dropped a bunch of paper dolls. The paper dolls wailed as they charged at Chen Ge, trying to crawl on his body. The red specter's movement was hindered, and the situation was dire. However, Chen Ge was as calm as he had ever been. He grabbed the backpack and swung it at the black-robed man. You sure are resilient. The black-robed man shielded the bottle and used his free hand to catch the backpack. However, he just grabbed the strap of the backpack when a white shadow suddenly jumped out from it. Even though he had created many ghost stories, he was stunned at that moment. What is this? The white cat had no idea what Chen Ge was talking about. It only felt that the bottle gave it a strange feeling. It opened its mouth to bite the bottle. The white cat jumped off the black-robed man and leapt onto the roof. A cat. The crazed villagers, the black-robed man, and Chen Ge were all attracted by the white cat on the roof. Its pure white fur did not fit in with this blood-red world. Well done. Chen Ge shouted, but what happened next shocked him. With the bottle in its mouth, the white cat tilted its head to look at the group of people below. Its small head shook left and right, and the blood vessels that had slid to the top of the bottle fell into its mouth. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Yesterday afternoon, I submitted my resignation application and arranged a newcomer for me. I'll be able to leave after 2 weeks at the latest. Today is considered a rather important day for me. I wrote a lot of sentimental words until 3:30 a.m., but when I looked back, I deleted them all. There's no need. Let's talk about the results of our book. The initial subscriptions are 17,600, and now the average subscriptions from Kidian are 28,000. The average subscriptions from all channels are more than 30,000, and the 24-hour reading rate is 14,000. Thank you, readers, for your great support. To put it simply, this result is the best among all the newcomers in 2018. The definition of a newcomer is that they only have one book under their name. Kidian's best author king will be chosen from all the newcomers. However, other than average subscriptions and initial subscriptions, the most important measurement is the total number of monthly votes, which is the total number of monthly votes obtained since the book was published. To compete for the best author king, one only needs to compete with the newcomers in terms of monthly votes. Currently, there are 2 newcomers with higher monthly votes than us. One of them has a total of 20,000 votes higher than us, and the other has 36,000 votes higher than us. There's still 1.5 months until the end of the year. It'll be difficult to surpass them in this period of time, but it's not impossible. This is the closest I'm to becoming the best author king. If I don't fight for it, I'll definitely regret it for the rest of my life. Therefore, after a few days of hesitation and discussion with my family, I decided to resign and start writing full-time at the beginning of December. Based on what the black robe said, the blood inside the bottle was the most valuable thing they had found behind the door. It hid the secret of the red specter, and it appeared to be the main method the Society of Strange Tales used to control the red specter. However, to everyone's surprise, the blood that hid the secret of the red specter had been swallowed by a cat. It's been eaten. The black robe's fingers were shaking from anger. He really did not expect someone to wander around with a cat. Spit it out. The black robe's voice turned shrill. This was probably his real voice. The white cat pressed its ears to the back of its head. It sensed danger from the black robe, and it made an attacking pose. Capture it. I want to open its stomach and suck out all the blood in its body. The red specter beside him heard the order and charged toward the roof. The red specter attacked, and the white cat, who was grinning, turned to run with the bottle in its mouth. It jumped on the roof and then crawled into the crowd of deformed villagers. The village center was in chaos. The black robe gritted his teeth. He had always been cautious, and he did not expect to fail at such a simple task. I have to capture it. That's the last bottle. Gripping his hands together, the black robe looked at the red specter that was lured away by the white cat, and the distance between them grew. When they were about 10 meters away, he suddenly had a bad feeling. He turned to look behind him, and Chen Ge was already charging at him with the hammer. Enjoy your free time for a little longer. I'm returning what you just said to me. Quote. With the black robe closing in on him, Chen Ge finally found an opportunity when the black robe was about to lose his temper. I hate people like you who rely on external help the most. You have to rely on yourself. Swinging the hammer madly, Chen Ge charged at him. If you dare, let's fight with our bare hands. The black robe looked at the hammer in Chen Ge's hands and sucked in a cold breath. This madman. He turned to run, and Chen Ge followed closely behind him. The red specter had been lured away. This was a rare opportunity, and Chen Ge would definitely not let it go. In his haste to escape, Black Robe could no longer maintain his sense of mystery. He held the hood and called for the red specter covered in faces. The current situation was similar to what had happened to Chen Ge at Fanghua Apartments. The red specter was lured away, and the person that the specter possessed was attacked. Looks like red specters are not omnipotent. The two consecutive encounters made Chen Ge realize this problem. That's right. One red specter is not safe, it can be easily lured away, so I need to raise a few more. They were both possessed by ghosts, but Black Robe's physique was a far cry from Chen Ge's. This was probably related to the difference in the way they controlled the ghosts. Chen Ge had tricked the ghosts into accepting him, but the relationship between the Society of Strange Tales and the ghosts was probably mutual benefit. The Black Robe did not run for long before he started to slow down. In contrast, when Chen Ge realized the man had slowed down, he immediately picked up his speed. Today, I will avenge the investigator who jumped off the building. Those who did not respect life, life would not respect them. When the red specter heard Black Robe's call for help, it immediately chased after him. However, when it passed the red coffin, the expressions of all the faces changed like they had seen something very dangerous, and they were instantly spooked. The Black Robe could not hold on any longer, but the monster did not go over. It stopped next to the red coffin and was on high alert. The blood fog in the village thickened. The deformed villagers seemed to sense something. They turned to the red coffin, and their bodies could not stop shaking. Another failure. The voice came from inside the red coffin. The woman with the unique presence slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were different from a normal person's, and the reflection of the little girl, Zhongling, was in her eyes. I still can't sever the connection between you and me. The blood vessels crawled into her palm, and the woman touched the back of the girl's head. I owe you a piece of skull, and I can help you with one thing in the future. Zhongling collapsed to the ground, and the woman moved her gaze to the red specter. Since you won't let me live as a human, I won't even give you the chance to become a ghost. As soon as he finished speaking, the blood mist in the entire village surged. It was as if invisible shackles were suppressing everyone present. The woman walked out from the red coffin. Endless blood vessels stuck behind her, and she slowly moved forward. The blood-faced man struggled with all his might, but the fog around him locked him in place. Layer after layer of shackles, the fog that covered half the village condensed into blood water that stuck to the red specter from the Society of Strange Tales. You want to fight me from behind the door that I've opened. The woman reached out toward the red specter's face, and her fingertips pierced into the monster's body. All the faces on the red specter started to scream, but it was useless. What happened next was gory and scary. The woman plucked all the faces off the monster and tossed them into the red coffin. Now, it's your turn. She was very vengeful. She controlled the blood fog to hang up the villagers who were kneeling on the ground. The louder the villagers begged for mercy, the happier she was. The woman's laughter echoed in his ears. Chen Ge, who was also restrained, shivered. He looked at the villagers who were in pain and shook his head. The people that you've hurt will eventually become your nightmare. The blood fog continued to seep into the woman's body. After torturing the villagers, she picked up Zhongling and walked to Chen Ge. You said that I can't hit your shoulder when I jump. The woman looked at Chen Ge with a smile that was not a smile. Did I? That shouldn't be. How come I can't remember? Chen Ge's hair stood on end. The woman was too vengeful, and she looked even more difficult to deal with than the red specter from the Society of Strange Tales. It's fine if you can't remember. I was planning to repay you. To Chen Ge's surprise, this vengeful, cruel, and scary woman did not make things difficult for him. She took a few steps to the left and squatted down before Fan Yu. Did you notice me a long time ago? Fan Yu nodded. After all, he was just a child and didn't have much of a heart. Then why are you still with me? The woman moved her face closer to Fan Yu like she wanted to see his expression. You're the one accompanying me. I don't have any friends. Fan Yu pointed at Chen Ge. Other than him. The woman smiled and took out a jade bangle from her sleeve. You can see them. Put this on, and they won't bully you anymore. Standing up, the woman placed Zhongling next to Chen Ge. Take her and leave. This village is going to be buried forever. Chen Ge did not quite understand what the woman meant. He hugged Zhongling and held Fan Yu's hand. Can I leave now? Yes. Chen Ge pulled back the hood of the black robe, and underneath it was a ruined face. Who is your chairperson? It's not me. A smile appeared on the black robe's face, and his lips curled into a smile. Take your time to guess. You will definitely meet him before you die. Then, blood vessels leaked out from the black robe's mouth. The blood vessels seemed to have a life of their own, crawling out from his body. Green veins popped on the surface of his skin. The black robe seemed to be enduring a pain that was beyond the limit of his senses. His mouth was open, and his upper jaw and throat were covered in blood vessels. The blood vessels in his body seemed to be consuming him. Chen Ge gripped the hammer, and he wanted to give the black robe a try, but he was stopped by the woman next to him. The blood vessels crawled out from the black robe's body and wrapped around him. One could only make out the shape of a human. The chairperson is right beside you. He has been paying attention to you. Of all the people he has met, you are the most interesting one. A hoarse voice came out from the black robe. Chen Ge and the woman in the red coffin watched as the black robe was slowly consumed. It turned into a part of the blood vessels that crawled into the red soil. What are those blood vessels? You can think of them as a part of a red specter's body. The woman picked up the black robe from the ground like she had found something interesting inside it. Take the two children and leave. If you stay too long inside the door, you won't be able to go back. The woman grabbed the black robe and disappeared into the red fog. Chen Ge looked in the direction that she had left, and he was confused. What is hiding inside that black robe? How come I can hear a trace of surprise in her tone? Quote. Chen Ge found the white cat on the roof of the ancestral hall. Even now, it did not understand what had happened. It bit on the bottle, and its white fur was standing on end. It was obviously spooked. Come down, everything's fine now. The white cat jumped down from the roof after a long time. When Chen Ge caught it, he realized that the white cat seemed to have gotten heavier. Why does your cat stuff everything into its mouth? Chen Ge pried open the white cat's mouth to take a look, but there wasn't even a trace of blood. That thing was prepared by the Society of Strange Tales for a red specter. Will there be a problem if a cat eats it? This was the first time that Chen Ge had encountered something like this. He noticed that there was nothing wrong with the white cat, so he shoved it back into his backpack. Then he led the two kids back to the bedroom that the woman had once lived in. The blood door is in front of her room. It's obvious that every time this door opens, it's a nightmare for her. The blood door in front of him was already closed. Chen Ge pushed it a few times but to no avail. Let me do it. Zhongling taught me how to open the door. Fan Yu pressed on the door. The bracelet that the woman had given him was bleeding, staining his palms red. He slowly pushed the door open. When he left the blood door, Chen Ge took out the black phone and glanced at it. He had been waiting for a notification. There was a high chance that the man in the black robe was patient 9 from the 3rd sick hall, Wu Fei. However, after the man's death, the black phone did not receive any notification. Every time a patient from the 3rd sick hall was killed, the completion rate of the 3rd sick hall's trial mission would increase, and when the completion rate was over 90%, one would be able to obtain the hidden item for this 3-star scenario. When Shang-Qing was captured and the demon man was killed, the black phone had received the notification, but after Wu Fei's death, there was no notification. Is there a problem somewhere? Chen Ge thought back to all the details of his encounter with the black robe, and he felt like he had missed a crucial point. The black robe has been following us. He only made his move after making sure that Zhangya was asleep. When he saw me, he changed his tone to mimic the investigator who jumped off the building. Chen Ge frowned. The black robe did not seem to have done anything suspicious. Is he still alive? Did the blood vessels wrap around his soul and escape? Or did he hide a part of his consciousness somewhere else? Just like how he controlled the investigator. Quote. Chen Ge was reminded of the strange reaction the woman had when she found the black robe, and he felt like there was something wrong with the black robe as well. Such a pity. Since Zhangya was asleep, he did not have the confidence to ask the woman for the black robe. The person who pushed open the door seems to be much stronger than a normal red specter in the world behind the door. After exiting the house, Chen Ge gave it some thought and decided not to go to the well. He planned to find a safe place to hide until morning. With the 2 children, Chen Ge came to the center of the village. He followed the hidden path inside the ancestral hall and entered the 2-story building. Granny, are you asleep? Chen Ge carried the 2 children into the building. When he got to the 2nd floor, he realized that the old lady was not in the cubicle. Where is she? Chen Ge put down Zhongling and grabbed the hammer. The old lady's legs have atrophied, and she can't move on her own. Did someone else come in here other than me? All the furniture in the room was untouched. The table and chairs were the same as when he first came in. If the old lady had been forcibly taken away, the room would not be so clean. Chen Ge patted Fan Yu on his shoulder. Did you see anyone in this room? No. Fan Yu shook his head. Then, where could she have gone? The crying of the baby echoed in the room. The building was not big, and they looked everywhere, but they could not find the old lady. This is strange. Chen Ge placed the unconscious Zhongling on the bed and sat on the ground. He was about to catch his breath when a gunshot came from the western side of the village. Gunshot. Is that Ol Wei? Chen Ge crawled up from the ground. They're back. Did something happen to them, or did reinforcements arrive? Quote. The gunshot only came once, and then silence returned. Worried about Master Bai and Ol Wei's safety, Chen Ge led Fan Yu and Zhong Ling out of the house and headed toward the western side of the village. By then, the sky at the end of the mountain was starting to glow. The night was about to pass. When Chen Ge returned to the western side of the village, number 10 had already left. Shang-Qing and Ghost Baby were nowhere to be seen, and only the collapsed villagers were left. What happened here after I left? Chen Ge grabbed one of the villagers to ask, but the man seemed to have been traumatized. He was delirious, and his mouth kept repeating, cracked, cracked. Chen Ge could not tell if it was the local dialect or if something had really cracked. He looked around and saw the Zhu woman lying beside the well. Her hair was disheveled, and she looked very pitiful. Can you hear me? Due to his occupation, Chen Ge was very good at treating fainting patients. With his help, the Zhu woman slowly woke up. The Zhu woman shook her head, and it took her a long time to wake up. She grabbed Chen Ge's sleeve, and the first thing that came out of her mouth was, split open, the man's body split open. Man, slow down, don't rush. Chen Ge patted the Zhu woman's back and helped her up. After you and the 2 children left, the 6-headed monster beside the black-robed man was torn apart by the ghosts in the village. During the whole process, the black-robed man did not do anything. The Zhu woman's body was weak, and her words were intermittent. After the ghosts in the village ate the monster, they started to target the black-robed man, but once they got close to the black-robed man, they would scream and run away. The ghosts were afraid of him. Yes, red blood leaked out of his body. After the black robe was pulled back, I saw a female body on his back. The Zhu woman's description reminded Chen Ge of himself, but Zhangya had been hiding in the shadow. When he pulled back the robe, did you see his face? No, it felt like the female body pulled back the robe herself. Are you sure it was a female body? Not a female ghost in a red dress. In Chen Ge's mind, there was a big difference between a female body and a female ghost. I can tell that apart, but the body was very unique. It was different from all the bodies I've seen before. The zoo woman tried her best to express that feeling, but she had been living in Coffin Village for a long time, so it was hard for her to find the right words to describe it. The body was carefully decorated, and it looked more like a showpiece. The people from the Society of Strange Tales are all crazy. Chen Ge was suddenly reminded of something and asked, was the body beautiful? So far, other than Wu Fei and Wang Shenglong, only Han Bao, was confirmed to be alive. The doctor's comment about her was that God must have wanted to destroy a person to give her this kind of beauty. When he saw this message, Chen Ge paid attention. Shang Qing was made into a red specter, and Han Bao, might have been made into something as well. The world of a madman is hard to understand. That corpse doesn't look too good. The zoo woman didn't know why she wanted to comment on the beauty of a corpse. She suddenly stopped. I almost forgot. The corpse didn't show any signs of decay. It's just that the skin color was very strange. It radiated the aura of death. The more the zoo woman spoke, the stranger it became. Even Chen Ge was confused. The thing that number 10 was carrying was different from all the ghosts he had seen before. What happened next? Why are you all saying that it's cracked? Chen Ge was more curious about this point. The female corpse's body was sewn together by countless red threads. Regardless of whether it was a ghost or a living person, she would stuff them into her mouth. When she ate, her mouth could open up to this point. The woman with the surname Zhu pointed at her ears. The various parts of the body also split open, just like mouths. Based on the zoo woman's description, this monster was probably a red specter, but if it really was a red specter, the zoo woman and the villagers had no chance of survival. Has the monster left? Chen Ge was more concerned about that. The black robe wanted to capture the female ghost's children first and then deal with us, but then someone walked into the village. Was it the police? The zoo woman shook her head. It was a doctor. He was wearing a white coat, and there were many children playing around him. A similar scene flashed through Chen Ge's mind, and he felt weirded out. There were children around the doctor. Those children were all ghosts, and they seemed to treat the doctor as their father. When the zoo woman said that, it reminded Chen Ge of someone, Dr. Chen from Zhujiang's children's home. Did the doctor in the white coat look like he was in his 40s? He had a square face and thick eyebrows. I was too far away, so I didn't get a good look. The zoo woman thought for a while. After the doctor entered the village, he walked toward the black robe. They appeared to be enemies. Did they say anything to each other? No. When the black robe saw the doctor, he left immediately. We were attacked by the children around the doctor, but they did not kill us. They merely knocked us out. Quote. I have one last question. You moved those children into your room through the secret tunnel in the ancestral hall, right? Chen Ge stood up and prepared to leave. You know all that. The zoo woman did not argue. In the past, when the female ghost woke up, she would go on a killing spree. Only my house was safer. I heard from the old lady in the cubicle on the second floor that she was your relative, right? Chen Ge said casually, but there was no reply. He turned to look and saw the strange expression on the zoo woman's face. What's wrong? My grandmother passed away a long time ago. It might not be her who was talking to you. Even though he was mentally prepared, Chen Ge's heart still raced. But don't be afraid. She probably just has something to tell you. The zoo woman signaled for Chen Ge to go to the western side of the village. Before I fainted, I saw the black robe and the doctor head toward the forest on the western side of the village. The gunshot came from the western side of the village, so Wei probably ran into them. Chen Ge was worried about the retiring officer, so he quickly ran toward the western side of the village. He did not run far before he heard a baby crying. Following the sound, he saw a master-by holding the bamboo basket and Wei fainted next to a wall. Neither of them were injured, but to Chen Ge's surprise, Wei's gun was still in its holster. Chen Ge pulled the gun out from the holster and realized that one of the bullets was missing. There are no bullet holes or shells around. Could it be that the thing that was shot was taken away? He stayed by Wei and Master Bai's side for a long time before the two woke up. It felt like a nightmare. Master Bai still had the memory of the previous night, but Wei's situation was more complicated. He kept telling Chen Ge that something scary had happened to him, but he could not remember what it was. Wei was obviously traumatized. He even forgot what had happened to him at Coffin Village that night, and he kept mumbling that something was not right. The night faded, and the sky started to brighten. Chen Ge's black phone received the mission completion notification. Congratulations, Spectre's favored. You've completed the 3-star mission, Coffin Village. A new scenario has been unlocked. Quote. Sewing mother's wedding dress, using my bone as the needle, my blood as the thread, and my skin as the dress. I hope you won't mind my red wedding dress. Congratulations, Spectre's favored. Congratulations for obtaining a special kind of specter, sewing mother's lingering spirit. 3-star scenario Coffin Village trial mission completed. Mission completion rate 7%. No hidden item reward obtained. Chen Ge looked at the message on the black phone twice to make sure he was not mistaken. The mission completion rate is only 7%. I've been chased around this village multiple times already, and I've been to every place. How can the mission completion rate only be 7%? The black phone would not make a mistake. Chen Ge looked at the screen and started to think. The Society of Strange Tales' interference caused Coffin Village's ritual to fail. Could that be the reason? The key to completing the mission should be the female ghost. Help her complete the ritual or kill her. The two choices will bring different changes. That should be the core of the mission. That woman said that whoever made her unable to become a human, she would make it so that they couldn't even become ghosts. This shows that the Red Spectre's spirit has changed. She wants to be reborn. Whether it was helping her or stopping her, the mission completion rate would continue to increase, but due to the appearance of the Society of Strange Tales, before Chen Ge could make a decision, he had already started to run for his life. Safety first. As long as I'm alive, there's still a chance to increase the mission completion rate. Chen Ge leaned against the wall and put the phone away. But what should I choose in the future? Help the female ghost come back to life or stop her? Quote. There was a big secret hidden inside Coffin Village. The whole village could be seen as a tomb, and all the villagers were paper dolls. The zoo woman was the tomb keeper, and the only thing buried inside the tomb was the Red Spectre. It's impossible to revive the dead. It's more likely to turn into a nightmare in someone else's mind. But if I stop her, I'll become her enemy, and it'll be a fight to the death. Chen Ge turned to look at Fan Yu. The boy had his head lowered to look at the jade bracelet on his wrist. The bracelet was decorated with blood-red patterns. The female ghost seems to value Fan Yu a lot. She even gave him a very expensive bangle. The female ghost is Fan Yu's friend, and Fan Yu is my friend. In other words, we are friends. That's good too. Although this woman is vengeful, she can clearly distinguish between kindness and hatred. She's worth helping. Furthermore, as the boss of a haunted house, isn't it normal to have a good relationship with ghosts? Chen Ge soon convinced himself. He told Fan Yu to make the ghost sister happy in the future. In tonight's trial mission, Chen Ge was only a bystander. Zhongya was in a deep sleep, and Shu Yin was in the midst of transformation, which made him lose the qualifications to participate in the game. Thankfully, the result was not too bad. The scenario was successfully unlocked, and there was a high chance that Shu Yin would become a Red Spectre. Even after the White Cat consumed the blood from the Society of Strange Tales, there might be some special changes. I've been on the run for the whole night, but why do I feel like I've gained something? The sun was already up, and it was 5 a.m. Chen Ge calculated the time. Even if he ran non-stop, he would not be able to reach New Century Park before 9 a.m. Director Luo is doing his best to promote the show, so I can't drop the ball. I'd better return as soon as possible. Chen Ge found the zoo woman and discussed with her about Ah Qing's child. In the end, Chen Ge's group did not take the baby with them but handed him over to the zoo woman to raise. In the meantime, Wei asked the zoo woman many questions, but unfortunately, the zoo woman was in cahoots with the Red Spectre who jumped into the well. She did not reveal any information. She only said that this was a normal village, and every year, around this time, they would hold a ritual. Old Wei felt as if he had forgotten something. It was as if he had drunk too much and could not remember what had happened last night. Chen Ge was afraid that Wei might be ambushed by the people from the Society of Strange Tales, so he brought him to a room and summoned the ghost to inspect him. There was nothing wrong with Ol Wei. There had been gunshots the night before. Ol Wei had probably seen something, and it was that thing that had stolen his memory. Only Ol Wei had seen the person who had stolen his memory. Only someone who had forgotten what the person looked like knew who the killer was. Chen Ge told Ol Wei to be careful and not to go out alone. He was worried that something similar would happen to Ol Wei. The villagers hated outsiders. Perhaps they were afraid that their abnormal appearance would be seen by normal people, so they purposely stayed away from Chen Ge's group. At around 6 p.m., Chen Ge, Ol Wei, and Master Bai left Coffin Village with the two children. They walked through the forest for 1 hour before Ol Wei and Chen Ge's phones rang at the same time. Finally, there's a signal. Ol Wei perked up and reported to Captain Yan. He said that the two children had been found, but the doctor from the orphanage had disappeared. Based on what Ol Wei said, he suspected that this was a premeditated case of child abduction. The two children had probably been sold by Dr. Chen into the mountains. Knowing that Ol Wei and Chen Ge were safe and had found the children, Captain Yan sighed in relief. He had them take the children back to the station. When Ol Wei reported to Captain Yan, Chen Ge logged into his social media account. He realized that between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., Heshan and Gao Rushui had sent him many messages. There seemed to be something urgent. Calling Heshan, Chen Ge asked directly, "How can I help you?" "Boss. Why did you only pick up now? Something big has happened." Heshan's voice was so loud that even Ol Wei could hear him. "Don't be so hasty. Slow down." Chen Ge took several steps forward to create some distance from the others. "Do you still remember Gao Rushui? She's the senior who came to visit your haunted house with me. Someone from her dormitory has gone missing." Even though Heshan had lowered his voice, it still hurt Chen Ge's ears. "If she's missing, why are you looking for me? She's not missing. I don't know how to explain it, but her facial features are still the same, but her personality is completely different. It's like the soul inside her body has been swapped. Possessed by a ghost. Yes, that's the feeling. Boss, do you want to come to our school to take a look? This is very strange, and senior needs help." Quote. "I don't have time for that now." Chen Ge thought about it and did not reject it directly. "I'll ask Gao Rushui about this." After hanging up, Chen Ge took out the black phone. The last side mission for the 4-star scenario School of the Afterlife was at Western Zhejiang's Medical University. Just as Chen Ge put his phone away, Gao Rushui called. Heshan had probably informed her. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Chen Ge answered the call, and before he could say anything, Gao Rushui purposely lowered her voice. "I'm not wearing earphones, and my roommate is in the corridor outside. Don't speak too loudly." Gao Rushui did not seem to be in a good condition. There was nervousness and anxiety in her voice. "I heard from Heshan that your roommate has been possessed by a ghost. It's probably scarier than that. I feel like she's changed into a completely different person. Is it because of the change in her behavior? She acts like normal, but I can sense that it's not her." Gao Rushui said with certainty. "Listen to me, this is related to a legend at our school. In the basement of the old education block, there is a statue whose eyes bleed. According to legend, if you can find it at midnight, you can ask it a question. I have two roommates, one is called Ma Yin, and the other is called Lu Shenxian. They went out together that night. Why would they want to find the statue? Just out of curiosity." Chen Ge asked softly. "Lu Shenxian has fallen in love with a man that she shouldn't have fallen in love with. She has been struggling with whether she should date the man or not. She comes from a single-parent family, and she lacks a sense of security. Whenever someone treats her well, she will think that person is the best. We've tried to persuade her, but she refuses to give up. She stubbornly believes that the man also loves her deeply, but due to various reasons, he cannot be together with her. She wants to make up her mind, but she is too afraid to do so. Therefore, she wants to find the statue and ask the man whether he truly loves her or not." Chen Ge was a blank when it came to relationships, and he did not know where to start. Then why did the other girl also want to find the statue? Ma Yin has a sister. She got into Western Zhejiang Medical University 5 years ago, but when she was in her second year, her sister disappeared on her way back to school. Even now, she has not been found. She wants to find out where her sister went. This has become the obsession of her family. After hearing the legend, she wanted to give it a try. Halfway through her sentence, another woman's voice suddenly came from the corridor, as if urging her. Gao Rushui hastened her speech. The two of them insisted on giving it a try. They're both cowards, so they dragged me along. We went there a week ago. We entered the basement of the old education block at around 11 p.m. There were many piles of trash there, so it was very difficult to find the statue. On the first day, we searched most of the area and found nothing. The next night, I thought they would give up, but who knew they would drag me there again. After being roommates for so long, I did not have the heart to reject them, so I followed them into the basement for the second time. It's different this time. I didn't go far before I heard someone laughing. I asked my two roommates if they heard the laughter, but they both said they did not. I felt like something was wrong, so I dragged them out of the room. I thought that would be the end of it, but they insisted on going on the third night. That was the first time I realized something was wrong with them. I warned them that if they went again, I would report this to the hostel manager and the school's security. Seeing that I was not joking, they returned to their beds. The thing that really scared me happened on the fourth morning. When I opened my eyes, the two roommates were already awake. They were lying in bed, looking at me with smiles on their faces. On the fourth night, the two roommates did not go out again, but I felt very anxious. I went to bed early and pretended to be asleep. At 2 a.m., the two roommates woke up at the same time like they had discussed it beforehand. They left the bedroom quietly. I did not dare chase after them. They only returned at 3:30 a.m. It was the same on the fifth and sixth nights, until last night. They snuck out at 2 a.m. again. At around 3:30 a.m., the roommates returned, but the scariest thing was, it was not two but three. They snuck out at around 2 a.m. again. At around 3:30 a.m., the roommates came back, but what scared me was that it wasn't two of them, but three of them. The three of them sneaked out at 2 a.m. again. At around 3:30 a.m., the roommates returned, but the scariest thing happened. There were only 3 beds in the bedroom, and one of them seemed to have climbed onto my bed. There were only 3 beds in the bedroom, and one of them seemed to have climbed onto my bed. I did not dare turn over for the whole night. I hid my hand under the blanket to make calls. You might not believe what I am going to tell you, but it is the truth. I sent messages to everyone, and all I got was, look behind you. But when I left you a message, the system replied normally. Then the extra person should have been lying behind me. At the time, I could only send you messages and call you, but I could not reach your phone. The whole night, I only dared to look behind me when the sun rose, and there was nothing on my bed. An hour ago, my roommates woke up from their beds. They behaved like normal, asking me to eat breakfast and go to class, but are you still not done? A woman's voice came from the phone, and the door to the toilet was pushed open. I'm fine, I'm just talking to a friend. Gao Rushui's voice changed instantly. She was very calm. You don't usually talk to us. This is not like you. Is it your boyfriend? The other girl laughed. Don't just talk, today's anatomy class is quite important. Quote. Okay. Gao Rushui added, if you have time, you can come over for dinner tonight. This is the first time I've invited someone, so think carefully before you reject me. You should hurry to class. I'll be there tonight. Chen Ge's voice was magnetic, and there was a trace of maturity and confidence in it. After hanging up, Chen Ge's expression changed. Gao Rushui asked me to talk to her tonight. Looks like what happened last night did give her quite a fright. But speaking of which, why are only my phone's calling and voicemail functions working? Quote. He held both phones in his hands, and he really could not figure this out. The statue, the extra person, the phone, Chen Ge actually wanted to ask Gao Rushui whether the underground morgue was related to the underground morgue or not. Number 10 was carrying a body. Could the body be related to the underground morgue at Western Zhejiang Medical University? When I see Gao Rushui tonight, I have to warn her. She can't stay in the dormitory anymore in her current condition. There was something scary buried under Western Zhejiang's Medical University, and that was something that Gao Rushui did not know. Putting away his phone, Chen Ge rushed out of the mountain as fast as he could. When Chen Ge returned to Linguan village at 9 p.m., Shu Wan called to ask why he was not at the haunted house and if something had happened. Chen Ge was about to hang up when Shu Wan told him another piece of good news: Jiu Feiyu had been discharged from the hospital. The young security guard had been attacked by the Society of Strange Tales at Fanghua Apartments, and he had only just recovered. He had rushed to New Century Park to wait for Chen Ge. Xiao Jiyu is a good worker, and the haunted house is quite busy. After giving Shu Wan some instructions, Chen Ge told her to get to the haunted house in 3 hours and hoped that she could comfort the visitors. Then he hung up. Wei led the 2 children into the police car. He planned to drive directly to the station, but after Chen Ge persuaded him for a long time, Wei finally agreed to drop Chen Ge at New Century Park. After taking a nap in the car, Chen Ge finally arrived at the park at 11 p.m. He had been running for a whole night, and his clothes had been torn by tree branches. He was carrying a large backpack, and there was a dirty white cat lying on his shoulder. I'm sorry, I'm late. The resting hall next to the haunted house was already full, and the steps were filled with people. Many visitors were there to visit the haunted house. The visitors had waited for a long time, and they had complaints in their hearts, but seeing how pitiful Chen Ge was, they did not dare to say anything. Xiao Chen, why are you so late? What time is it already? Shu arranged for the workers to distribute free water and small gifts to all the visitors, and then he asked the question that was on most of the visitors' minds. What were you doing last night? Many visitors surrounded him. After all, Chen Ge's appearance was quite attractive. Last night, 2 children from Zhujiang's children's home went missing. I went to help them find them. They followed the trail all the way into the mountains and found a village full of deformed people. The village was like a tomb. Red and white were reversed, white lanterns were hung everywhere, and the ground was covered with paper money. When I arrived, they were holding a ceremony. There was a baby in a bamboo basket and a red coffin in front of the door. At that time, the woman in the village held a pair of scissors in her hand and carried the baby into the village's ancestral hall. When she came out, her clothes were covered in blood. Stop! Don't say any more. Shu hurriedly grabbed Chen Ge's arm. A large group of tourists had gathered around them. They were originally resentful, but after listening to the story, they found it quite exciting. Let him continue. What happened at the back? Quote. What kind of ritual is so bloody? Is there really such a village? Quote. Let's disperse. The boss has lost his mind. Shu tried to explain to the people around him, but Chen Ge's voice only grew louder. There's more to come. He picked up the loudspeaker that the workers had brought to maintain order, stepped on the fence, and climbed up to the top of the midnight ticket hall. He was dressed very ordinarily, but the feeling he gave off was as if his whole body was emitting light. After I investigated the village, I realized that it was a ghost village. The living live in the day and the dead live at night. After midnight, the whole village is filled with ghosts. You must have not seen something like that before. The dead have a funeral for the dead, the soul banners fluttering, and the whole street is filled with funeral processions. If you think that's all, then you're very wrong. The most dangerous place in this village is the old houses. The courtyards are planted with locust trees with the heaviest yin energy, and under the trees are monsters with deformed bodies. If you're lucky enough to enter the main hall, don't celebrate too early. Every room in the old house is placed with a coffin, and inside the coffin is a bright red gravecloth. Whether you touch the gravecloth or not, it will run out from the coffin and follow behind you. At that place, you have to be careful with every breath you take. At some point, someone will start to call your name. If you answer, you'll enter the bridal chamber, and the person you're going to marry will be a bride sewn from human skin. Funeral, Minghan, skull lantern. All kinds of strange ghosts are hidden inside the village. A unique layout. A scary design. Now you can experience such an awesome scenario for only 30 RMB. The reason I'm late today is because I've been working on this scenario. Quote. This new 3-star scenario will be open to the public for a limited time. Trust me, this is definitely the scariest village-themed scenario on the market. Quote. When Chen Ge finished, his voice was still echoing in the sky above the theme park. This is supposed to be an introduction to a scary supernatural scenario, so why does it make my blood boil? What did I want to say earlier? Since there's a discount on the ticket price and a new scenario, I won't hold it against you for being late. I'm slowly losing my memory. I do want to go, but I'm so afraid. I'm so conflicted. The opening of a new scenario, this speed of updating would scare the other haunted houses on the market. Chen Ge looked at the visitors who were whispering to each other with satisfaction. The ticket price had been lowered, and the new scenario had been opened. The tardiness that had happened that day had never happened. Jumping down from the ticket counter, Chen Ge returned the loudspeaker to the worker and opened the door to the haunted house. Open for business. Chen Ge had Ji Feiyu change into Dr. Skullcracker's uniform and handed him the bloodier hammer. He had him enter murder by midnight to play the role of the murderer. Xu Wan, on the other hand, was the same as before, responsible for the Minghan scenario. The two one-star scenarios on the surface had people to look after them, and Muyang High School had 24 lingering spirits to look after them. Outside the door, Shushu was buying tickets, so Chen Ge had a rare moment of leisure. I should recruit more ghosts like Yan Danian and the students from Muyang High School. They don't mean any harm, and I can trust them. In the long run, I can just be a hands-off shopkeeper and only be responsible for calculating the income every day. Quote. After sending the visitors into the scenario, Chen Ge sat at the door to rest. He played on his phone. He wanted to ask about Gao Ru Shui's condition when he saw someone looking for him on WeChat. Xiao Xinyi. This was an internet celebrity who specialized in haunted house reviews. She had entered Chen Ge's haunted house with the people from Tian Teng Medical School and had almost vomited. She had given Chen Ge's haunted house a very high rating and even asked for Chen Ge's contact number, saying that she was going to help promote Chen Ge's haunted house on the internet. What's wrong? What's wrong? Quote. Chen Ge glanced at the picture. This woman who followed Yi Xiaoxin looked like a good girl. She was dressed very cute, a completely different style from the short-haired Yi Xiaoxin. Swiping the screen, Chen Ge continued to scroll. When he saw the second screenshot, he started to panic. The obedient woman in the picture was fanning the flames behind Yi Xiaoxin's back. She could be seen in every review that Yi Xiaoxin had posted on the platform. This was especially so for Chen Ge's haunted house review. Initially, it was 9.7, but within a week, it had dropped to 8.9. In the end, due to the quality of Chen Ge's haunted house and the high number of positive reviews, it managed to stay at 8.9 despite the flood of negative reviews. Looking at the other screenshots, the woman went around belittling the haunted house and raising the ratings of her own haunted house. Most importantly, there was a group of people who were tricked by her appearance and kept giving her positive reviews. Comparing them, it was clear that most of the haunted houses on her main page were above 9. The reviews all said that they were trash, but she had no intention of changing her rating. In contrast, on Yi Xiaoxin's side, the highest rating was Chen Ge's haunted house, and the second highest was only around 6. It has nothing to do with me that you're going against Yi Xiaoxin, but since you've given me a negative review, I'll have to seek justice for myself, or else I'll be letting down my dedicated employees. Chen Ge glanced at the woman's ID and memorized her face. There were many screenshots. Other than this woman, there were other people on the forums. They seemed to be purposely pulling the spotlight toward New Century Park. I'd better discuss this with Director Luo. After all, haunted house is the park's main attraction. If its rating drops, the public's impression of the park will drop as well. Sitting at the door, watching the visitors enter the scenario nervously, and then walk out with their legs shaking like jelly, Chen Ge felt a sense of achievement. Earlier, Chen Ge had been making a ruckus outside that the 3-star scenario, Coffin Village, would be open for a limited time. However, most of the visitors were experienced, and they would search for reviews online before entering the haunted house. In most people's hearts, a scene with a scream index of 3 stars was a forbidden zone for the living. Until noon, when Chen Ge had fallen asleep sitting at the door, he was suddenly woken up by Shu Shu. What's wrong, uncle? Quote. Shu Shu coughed twice and gestured. These few visitors want to challenge the new scenario that you mentioned. Average environment, barely 4 points. Employees slacking off and sleeping during working hours, 2 points. There were 5 visitors standing at the entrance of the haunted house, 3 men and 2 women. One of the women was typing away on her phone. When he saw the woman's face, Chen Ge was stunned at first, but then he smiled out of habit. Welcome. No one has entered the new scenario yet. You guys are so lucky. It is too late to change your attitude now. I want to see the true face of your haunted house. The woman raised her head. She looked quite cute, but her voice was a little rough. It was obvious that she was older. Aren't you here to visit? Chen Ge pretended to be confused, and his face was filled with confusion. You can call me Cassie. I'm a professional haunted house reviewer. I have millions of fans online. As long as I think your haunted house is not bad, I'll put it on my front page, and your visitor count will increase by at least 1/3. The woman was very proud. But the prerequisite is that I think it's good enough. Based on your current performance, it is barely satisfactory. Chen Ge was too lazy to listen to the woman's nonsense. Do you have a Chinese name? Like Tai Zhu, Go Dan, or something more common? Quote. The woman's face fell, but she did not get angry at Chen Ge. This woman had been maintaining her fake persona before her friends. She did not say anything. The two men beside her saw that she was being bullied, and they stood up. One had dyed blonde hair and wore earrings and a nose stud. He looked rather non-mainstream. The other was dressed more normally, but he was very tall, close to 1.9 meters. Alright, since you're here, you're all visitors. Let's not waste time and sign the disclaimer. Chen Ge did not want to get into a conflict with them. He placed the disclaimer before them, and his excited tone caused Shu Shu's hair to stand on end. Xiao Chen, they're just giving you an objective review. Don't be rash. The haunted house has been open for so long. Don't you know me? When have I ever been rash? Chen Ge pushed Shu Shu out the door. Don't worry. Quote. You say that every time. Shu Shu was too embarrassed to explain since there were outsiders there, but there was a trace of worry that he could not hide in his eyes. The 5 visitors also saw Shu Shu's gaze, and for some reason, they felt a chill run down their spines. This uncle is also an actor. Isn't his acting a bit too good? He can express so many complicated emotions with just one look. After sending Shu Shu away, Chen Ge's smile brightened. Sign the disclaimer. This is the first time Coffin Village is open to the public. You have to be careful. If you run into danger, scream loudly, and the workers will come to your rescue. Chen Ge's attitude was impeccable, but the more he acted like that, the more worried the 5 visitors became. The new scenario is just a gimmick. Don't be afraid. Actually, this is just an experiment that I made. It's an Oriental haunted house based on folklore. It's completely different from the Japanese and Western haunted houses. Chen Ge briefly explained the theme of Coffin Village. When the few visitors heard that it was not a Japanese or European haunted house that was popular on the market, they sighed in relief. In reality, there were some haunted houses with Eastern characteristics in the country, but probably due to the lack of funds and the lack of a mature design team, most of them were not as effective. Eastern haunted house. I heard you say it's an abandoned village theme. This kind of scenario is rare. It was another girl who spoke. She had a ponytail and looked quite young. Chen Ge glanced at the disclaimer. The girl's name was rather plain, Zhang Lan. It's indeed rare, so I wanted to give it a try. Chen Ge put away all the disclaimers. His action gave off the feeling that he was going to use them soon. Come with me. The new scenario is underground. There's no hurry, the girl suddenly said. The woman suddenly said. She was a cunning person. Before she came, she had done a lot of research on Chen Ge's haunted house. Furthermore, this was a 3-star scenario, so she was very cautious. I heard that for 2-star scenarios and above, you usually accept 10 visitors at a time. Now that there are only 5 of us, we should wait for the other visitors and enter together. Chen Ge felt that it made sense. Then I'll go out and see if there are any visitors. Thank you. The girl smiled sweetly. It's nothing. Our haunted house will always put the visitors' needs first. Chen Ge turned and walked out. After Chen Ge left, the few visitors started to whisper among themselves. Sister Mao, what are you afraid of? How many haunted houses have the 5 of us cleared? If there are other visitors, they might cause trouble for us, the blonde complained. This person is close to Yi Shaoxin. I'm afraid he might set us up inside the haunted house. If there are other visitors, at least he'll be cautious. The girl took out her phone and added another comment. Average service, 3 points. 5 minutes later, Chen Ge pushed open the haunted house's door. He shoved the comic into his pocket, and 3 people followed behind him. 2 men and 1 woman. The woman had a good presence and was pretty, but her body was slightly uncoordinated. Of the 2 men, one was expressionless with his left hand in his pocket, and the other was wearing a black shirt, complaining about how unlucky he had been recently. You're so lucky. There are 3 visitors who also want to visit. The 8 of you can enter together. I've already introduced this scenario when we were outside. It's a 3-star scenario, and there's no fixed route. It's completely open. You only need to find a red wedding dress and bring it out to clear the scenario. Chen Ge made up the requirements to clear the scenario. After all, this was his territory, and his words were the rules. That's simple. The yellow hair with the earring asked Chen Ge in return. Are there any hidden requirements? Some haunted houses will design multiple side quests for the visitors to explore on their own to increase the fun. Quote. My haunted house has many side quests. You can explore them slowly, and you'll definitely be satisfied. Chen Ge's smile was as warm as the morning sun. Is there a time limit? The tall man next to him also chimed in. It was clear that they were all veterans and had a deep understanding of the haunted house. Since this is the first time it's open, I'll give you more time. As long as you find the wedding dress and bring it out in 40 minutes, you'll clear the scenario. Chen Ge was kind. To give his visitors a better experience of Coffin Village, he extended the challenge time. We don't need 40 minutes. The yellow hair flicked his bangs and felt good about himself. We've reviewed many haunted houses, and the longest we've cleared was 30 minutes. 40 minutes is a bit long, but we can explore more. The leading woman held her phone and did not show any intention of putting it away. When Yi Shaoxin entered the haunted house, she had used pen and paper to record everything. That alone was enough to show that the 2 of them were not on the same level. Actually, Chen Ge could see that the woman was reviewing the haunted house as a gimmick. She wanted to create a contrast between her cute self and the creepy haunted house. People like Yi Shaoxin who respected the haunted house's rules could be considered a real reviewer. Yes, we might discover more hidden fun if we explore more, Chen Ge agreed. His attitude was so good that even the 3 visitors behind him could not take it. After he had the 3 new visitors sign the disclaimer, he led the 8 of them to the end of the corridor and pulled up the wooden boards. Cold air rushed out from the ground, and the people around him shivered. The haunted house is only separated by a single wooden board. It's too simple, so 1 point will be deducted from the layout. The woman took out her phone to record. Chen Ge was not angered. In fact, he was still reminding the woman out of kindness. Our haunted house does not allow the use of phones or other recording devices. I hope you can be more careful. I'm a certified haunted house reviewer. I only use the phone to record data. Don't overthink it. Understood. When you enter the haunted house, I hope you'll go easy. On the left is the 2-star Muyang High School scenario, and behind the hospital's iron door is the 3rd sick hall. The Coffin Village that you're going to is right in front of you. Coffin Village is at the end of this road, so I won't be sending you there. Have a good time. Chen Ge stood on the other side of the road and watched the visitors walk away. Coffin Village is at the end of this road, so I won't be sending you there. Have a good time. Chen Ge stood on the other side of the road and watched the visitors walk away. It's best if the 3 scenarios are separated, but when the haunted house expands into Maze of Terror, all the scenarios in the underground parking lot might be connected to form a large scary scenario. The haunted house had to be expanded 3 times before it could become Maze of Terror. Now that it had been expanded twice, the 3rd should be coming soon. Chen Ge looked at the other 2 scenarios. In the Muyang High School scenario, the door to the last classroom had been pushed open. One of the mannequins peeked out like it was trying to see if Chen Ge had left or not. When it realized Chen Ge had not left, it quickly rolled back into the classroom and closed the door behind it. These people are too easygoing. I'll have them memorize the workers' rules in the future. Chen Ge returned to the surface and walked toward the haunted house's prop room. He rummaged through it for a while before finding the reward from the previous mission, the seamstress's wedding dress. The dress was as red as blood, and it appeared to be haunted by a resentful spirit. When he got close, he could hear a woman sobbing. If the visitors who had entered the scenario saw this, they would have gone mad from anger. The thing that they were looking for had not been placed inside by Chen Ge. To experience the joy of hard work, that's the fun of a game. Using the black cloth to wrap the dress, Chen Ge entered the specter's changing room. This was a special building that had been added after the second expansion. No visitors had tried it before. Chen Ge picked out an inconspicuous outfit and put it on. Then he put on some makeup. Not bad, the makeup I'm wearing now looks like a normal person at first glance, but if you look closer, you'll notice that it's quite scary. The fully equipped Chen Ge entered Coffin Village again. He used the black phone to look at the detailed introduction of Coffin Village and the various hidden paths before taking out the comic. Last night, when the Society of Strange Tales was in conflict with the Zoo Woman, Chen Ge had used the chaos to pull several ghosts from Coffin Village into the comic. After a night of education, these few ghosts had become obedient and obedient. I've told you that you'll have a bright future if you follow me. This is the new home that I've arranged for you. The whole village is yours. You can consume the visitors' fear, but be careful not to harm the visitors. Do not touch them physically, understand? Chen Ge walked through the Coffin Village scenario and placed the ghosts inside the scenario. The completion rate for Coffin Village's trial mission is only 7%. The scariest part of the scenario hasn't been triggered yet. Thankfully, I had the foresight to get a bunch of ghosts from the village. Looking at the new Coffin Village that was brimming with life, Chen Ge revealed a satisfied smile. Even though it's tiring and hard for me, as long as I can give the visitors the best experience, it's all worth it. Chen Ge felt like he was the kind of person who worked behind the scenes. If he told the truth, most of the visitors would be touched. In the eerie environment and creepy music, the 8 visitors reached the end of the path, and the scene before them could only be described as shocking. Rows of old houses, complicated streets, paper money flying all over the ground, and paper lanterns hanging above the doors that emitted a faint white light.